We're gonna have a party, okay?
This is just like
Because I'm
grade
just
school.
running. Just running is,
This is just like grade
I'm not
school.
complaining, I'm
What is
just saying,
on
hi
this?
Dave. Is Jason here?
Jason is on vacation this week.
The nerve. The nerve, the noise. All right, are we moving here? All right, welcome to Historic Preservation Commission for Monday, March 13th, 2017. I am here, Alderman Mark Stoyer. We have Roger Retzlaff. Here. Dave Boyce.
Here.
Susan Lee.
Here.
Janine Mead.
Here,
Patty Olson.
here.
Dennis Doucette.
Here.
Jason Flatt. He's not here. He's not- We already said that, but I just wanted to say. All right, approval of the minutes. Approve February 13th, 2017 minutes. Do we have a motion to that effect?
I'd like to see if we could add Alderman Netting to the,
By all means, Alderman Nenning is here, and we will send a list around and have everybody sign it, so,
if there's anyone else that was at the last meeting.
okay. Oh, from the last meeting?
Yes.
All right, that sounds good, we'll make sure we have that. All right, with that in mind, do we have an approval then, a motion?
Motion to approve.
Okay, by Janine, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dennis, okay, all in favor? Aye, all opposed?
I'm abstaining as I was not present.
Okay, Susan Lee was abstaining, or is. All right, approval of the agenda. Let me, we have some, did you want to come up first, Stephanie?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to change some things around because there's plan commission tonight. Stephanie Hummel is a planner, I believe, in the planning office, and she'll be working with us. So, with that being said, where are we here? Would that be under, I don't know where to see it here. I'll just put it as, under new business, I guess. We'll just do that.
Other announcement.
Other announcements, let's do that. We'll just move this up right now, so. Stephanie, do you want to come forward? And Cheryl, if you want to chime in as well. I mean, we got some good things going on, so, and I sent the email out
Oh,
to
good.
our
So we
commission,
got
so I was
that.
hoping everybody had a chance to peek at it. So,
So what I handed out to you was the email that he had forwarded to you. So just an update with a memo, kind of updating what we're going to be doing for the process going forward. A chart that kind of dictates when the deadlines are going to fall, and then also how the agendas are going to be reformatted. So throughout the department, we're just trying to get a little more cohesive with all the different commissions that we run. So this is going to be now staff appointed between myself and Jason. We'll be working with you guys. Jason, obviously, with the intellect, he knows everything about everything, so he'll be doing most of your staff reports. And then I'll be taking care of the agenda, making sure the meetings get recorded correctly and those sorts of things. So basically, anything you have going forward, feel free to send it to me. I will be taking care of the agenda. Before, one of our secretaries had done that, but that's going to be going through me now. So the Monday before the meeting is going to be the deadline for the agenda. So if you have anything that you'd like for the next meeting, feel free to give me a call. It's probably easiest if you facilitate it by running through the chair, so that way he can just get anything to me
Right.
that might be necessary.
Stephanie,
But also if you want.
what's your extension, just?
3424. If you have anything that might need a little bit more background or digging, like an update on a project we've been working on or anything like that, you might want to give us at least a week notice. That way we're able to do a report if necessary and get all the information needed. So if you have anything you'd like to be on the next agenda, usually at the current meeting that you're at would be the easiest time to get that to staff for a referral for our project.
Okay. I guess the question I had for both of you, you know, as we're marching forward to try to get certified local government status and other factors, did you just feel that, you know, with the way things are moving forward, that we just needed to streamline a little bit better? Or were there other reasons that you were thinking?
Part of it was really consistency within the department. You know, I think there was a lot of confusion with our clerical staff up front. They were getting calls from multiple board members, and does this go on? And I don't know what this means. And I think it's better now that we have staff that can support the HPC. So if you have something on the agenda, the way we generally do it for redevelopment authority and plan commission, there's a report attached to it, so you'll have information at the meeting then.
So when
And then
you-
also, you know, there's a lot of, on your agenda, you have these like rolling agenda items that never kind of go away.
Yeah, so we'll tighten that
It's just
up.
one of those things where you should, I mean, they can always come back, but you should put them on here if you want to make a motion or, You know what I mean? Otherwise, they could go under, the reports at the end of the meeting.
I think that's what we'll generally do, is just if there needs to be an update on a project, Jason will do that either
Right.
with a written or an oral report, so.
I think that's some of that because he's been working on these things, so it's been a rolling type of thing. But if we
Right.
could tighten that up and make it a little more succinct, that's fine.
Yep.
I have no problem with that.
Well, part of the issue is we've made a motion and we've issued proposals to Common Council.
Okay.
The question is, how do we track whether the Common Council is taking action on what we've recommended?
I think on the
Well-
other agendas we do where we have a report at the end of the meetings from whoever would be responsible, like for instance Kevin Bonk does at the planning commission where he gives the director's report on what was approved at council. So if anything that is historic related does go through council, we can put that on as mostly like an informational update of what did go through council and what they voted on.
Now, the fact that we're a volunteer, well, not volunteer, but advisory, are we, when we start moving forward to try to get things on council, do we go through the planning commission for that? Or is there any other vehicle by which we would do that?
I think it would depend on what you're trying to change. So for instance, like
Yeah.
the ordinance changes would go through plan commission, then
Okay,
to city
that-
council.
I mean, that's
We're
what
not-
I'm just doing
I
this for
mean,
information.
there might be some, it's really a question of how Common Council wants, say an ordinance change to be handled. But we're a commission on the same level as Plan Commission. We can make independent recommendations to council. We don't need to go through another body. It would go to council from us, it would go, and council would refer it to another
Is that,
agency.
is that how you see that, Cheryl? Okay.
I guess, right? I mean, if we're gonna do an ordinance change, you're advisory, so it'd be one of, I guess you'd make you're requesting the council to take an action on, for example, your raise ordinance
Right, but
If
do
you
we have
come
to
up
go
with a
that
raise
extra
ordinance
step?
that you'd like to be passed,
Mhm.
that would go to plan commission, do you think? Or it would just go straight to council?
I think it depends what's already in the ordinance too. Anything that's in the current zoning ordinance that covers historic properties, the zoning ordinance is changed through plan commission. If it's something else, if you're doing an internal policy or anything like that, or creating a new ordinance, that wouldn't have to go through plan
It
commission.
wouldn't have to.
I don't think so. We'd have to check with law. but I
Well,
don't think
that's
that would.
fine. I mean, I don't think we worry so much about the process, but I think part of it is that, and I've had some people say, we don't get the minutes, we don't, because we're advisory, I mean, the council packets, I mean, we do get some things, but I've been asked by some folks to make sure that the information gets out to the council. And I'm just hoping that, that happens. I get it, but I'm just wondering if everybody in the council's getting it.
Okay. That's what I'm
So
here for.
things like that, I just want to
Advisory,
keep
I
it
think you do,
consistent.
don't you?
So
Yeah,
if it's happening already, fine, but I've asked one or two folks and they don't always seem to get it. But I think one of the issues is that we meet once a month. So sometimes it's every other week, and then they look at it and, hey, where's my minutes on HPC? Well, we only meet once a month. So anyway, Roger, does that help? I mean, was there other things
Right,
that you wanted to?
the only other question I had on this, for the schedule, on when items are due, and is this the same for other committees and commissions?
Yes, this is
So the Plan
basically off of
Commission-
RDA and Plan Commission.
If the Plan Commission meets today, they would have gotten their packet on Friday, this past Friday.
Yeah, they sent it
If the
Thursday.
mail
right?
report.
So it'd be the same mail schedule.
Yep.
So we've all seen this? I think I sent out the email, so I don't know, does anybody have any questions about that? Or, first of all, thank you for this, because we're taking steps here, and I just feel like this will help us.
Well, this is what we were complaining about 5, 6 years ago. So.
Well,
lack of staff
and-
support and lack of,
Right.
direct incorporation into the administrative process of the city, so.
Well, this is a big step, and I appreciate the efforts that way, so, and I think a lot of us do as well, so. All right, is there anything else, Stephanie, that you had to add, or, Janine?
I'm just referring to the time change, the suggestion, that one, and then also to meeting twice a month in the summer. Goes to,
Those
Or
are
at
just
least maybe the
suggestions.
availability to meet more, because summer's
Yep.
construction time, and there's nothing worse than wanting to get your construction, and then you just miss this meeting, so now
Yeah,
you're
Well,
out.
we've been diligent about
Yeah, that's what was on
calling
my
special
point.
meetings.
Yep, and that's what I mean, as long
We
as
have done
that's
We've
an
done
okay
that.
thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Special
Yes,
meetings.
if something comes up, we will do
Yep.
that.
Our
We're always
first focus
trying to
is
accommodate.
to meet the needs of the citizens, so.
Is 4:30, I mean,
What about your other meeting?
which one, you only, yeah, I mean, on Mondays, we have 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock meetings, so it's kind of like, for me, it's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
easier, but,
4:30
you know,
meetings
4:30,
That's kind of a late start.
4:30?
Yeah, for you, if you have another meeting at 5.
Yeah, we've got a-
Well, it's, I'm not
It's just
on,
that, I
I'm not
mean,
on
keep
P
the
and
meeting where
W,
you want
I'm
it.
not on
It's
that
just
committee
okay.
anymore. But there always, there might be some issues, so, that's where Dave comes in, right, Dave? You can fill in. You're always, he's always there.
It was
Um,
worse, Mark. when
Well,
you
do we have to decide on that right away?
Oh, no, that was just,
Let's
if you
just-
guys want to
They're
bring it up
just
for
like-
discussion.
Think
Yeah.
about
That's
it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Okay. Janine, does that help, or?
Yeah, no, I was just wanting to address it in case there
Right.
was some
Okay.
conflict.
Well, I think it'll take a little while for, you know, when it becomes second nature, then I think we'll all be appreciative, you know.
And are we
That's-
looking to meet here now? in
I
the
would
future?
say, I would say yes.
It's nice because you can record, I mean, it's recordable. and
Right.
Mhm.
Public
Well,
can see
and we
it.
don't have any disruption with other meetings that might be occurring at the
Right.
same
Yeah, I
time.
don't like, it's hard to rush,
Right.
or you're, and people in the hallway, you know.
Yep, mm-hmm.
They talk.
Yep.
All right, Stephanie, anything else then? Well, thank you, welcome aboard, and
Thanks.
you'll get a chance to know all of us. Would you prefer, you know, because I know commission members will contact, would you prefer it come through me and then I contact everybody, or what is the easiest way to go about that?
As
You know,
far as getting things
Just
on the agenda.
information, agenda items, things on that order. I have no problem with others coming forward, but I would like to just be CC'd in on it to make sure that at
Yeah,
least I know.
usually everything would be run through the chair.
Well,
Well, but
I was
people
just
can-
mentioning, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I mean, we're responsive to board members' questions,
Right.
those types of things, but when you set up the agenda, generally that comes like through the director and the chair of that committee.
Okay.
Because the chair might say, we don't wanna handle this now, or, you know what I
Right.
mean, you make the decision.
Well,
on-
that's fine. I have no problem with,
Okay.
you know, our committee contacting Stephanie. So if that's the case, and then we can just keep the dialogue going.
Mhm.
So it's 448-3424 if you, so Stephanie, you'll be our contact.
I could send her an email.
Yeah,
tomorrow
could you do
morning to
that?
everybody.
Thank you.
So in the past, Dawn has been sending emails to, I haven't looked, does that only go to a few people, or does that go to everyone asking for agenda items?
I think in the past it's gone to me, yeah.
I don't get requests, I get the packet, I don't get requests.
I would, you know, it's okay if it's sent out to everybody. If somebody throws something in and then I can, as long as I can peek at it, I have no problem with that.
Well, typically, I won't be emailing out to say, do you have anything for the agenda? It'll be, I want this on the agenda, can you make that happen? So it'll be more you guys telling me what you'd like on the
Right.
agenda versus me asking.
Well, now we have somebody that,
Mhm.
instead of me running around, and it'll be nice to focus that way, so
We're
I'm
gonna miss you running
fine
around.
with that. I'm fine, what's that?
I'm gonna miss you running around.
Thanks. All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Cheryl. All right, next, no design reviews, no communications were received.
Oh, there was the one email communication from Jason Chance that I referred to you.
Jason? Oh,
That was-
refresh me.
We should just record that for the minutes. Regarding the sign for the
Oh.
Boost Mobile,
I got it.
design review we did last month.
Okay.
Apparently, the building manager has not given permission for the signs that they want to put up to go on the building.
Okay, and where was that located again? Because we had a couple of,
That was at
Metro PCS.
And Broadway?
114 South Broadway.
okay. I had talked to Wendy Townsend too, and she said something about the effect that that's not pressing right now. So
Well,
she's,
I just think
But-
since mean, no communications, that's,
Okay, let's, so you,
just to have it on the record.
okay, that sounds good. Well, thank you for that. All right, well, we got a report by Jason Flatt on projects and initiatives from February and projected for March.
I can let you know that
So-
he is working on setting up the loan program. That was
Right.
funded.
And you might want to refresh a few of us on that, just,
That is, his proposal is to try to maximize the historical tax credits, the 25% you can get. Oftentimes, someone may be just putting a furnace in, and they're not gonna reach that $10,000
right.
limit, minimum that they have to do. So he's looking at setting up the revolving loan program, so you can do the furnace and then maybe include your roof on that, get the loan for that. 2 a year, 2 of those loans a year, and then they would revolve, which would replenish the loan.
Mhm.
So he's working to set that up actually with Bill in the neighborhood division
Okay.
to see how we can work together on that, since we run the rehab loan program now. through the
And this
city.
is, you know, somewhat unique in the state now, right? We don't really have something like this?
I don't know,
I don't know, I mean, it just
I know
seems-
Jason came up, I believe, with the concept for this. I don't know if anyone else is doing this.
Well, I know there, how much did we get from the excise tax on this?
100,000.
Okay. That's
For
a
the
nice start.
program.
It's a nice start. All right.
So I
well,
know
let's-
he's working on that.
All right, I was gonna, other things, I got some emails from, let's see. Keep talking, you guys.
Is it this one?
Yeah, I did bring it. And I sent this out to all of the commission members, and this is from Ron Dean. Oh, Ron, there he is. Hi, Ron. Actually, I wouldn't mind if you could just speak to the email. You got in touch with Jason, and, we've talked, we've gone to your neighborhood association a couple of times. And I think there were some very good questions that you brought forward. So if you wouldn't mind, Ron Dean?
Okay, well,
Just to make, this is related to item number 2.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, well, as far as the future meetings and that, let's just move to that. I have nothing else.
You have to make a motion to open the floor.
Yes, let's do that.
so, oh, sorry.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye, all opposed? You want to come up here, Ron, or did you?
I'm
Or
fine right
you can
here.
talk
Yeah,
loud enough.
I think my voice carries well. We passed out the proposal of legislative changes, those 2 parts that can, put it into one, and asked everybody to read it and make their comments. Overwhelming response was that, number one, they liked the idea of the CLG. They felt that there was a lack of protections in for the average resident in the neighborhood. And I wrote a couple of ideas down where, like, since Green Bay is complaint-driven in a lot of respects, you could have a neighbor that just hates your guts and calls and complains about things on your historical property. It could end up costing you tens of thousands of dollars, in ways that there's no protections in there to prevent that from happening. The second one was that, and I understand that government can't really say you have to use this company. However, there's nothing in there that says that the specifics of design couldn't be limited so strict that it could just be one company that manufactures it.
Right.
And in a community this size, I just use 2 companies, for example. Doesn't necessarily mean that either one of those would come into play, but it was a thought, like, for somebody, like, I know the guys from Windows of Wisconsin. So I just happened to write that up to say, when we talked about that, nobody wants to be corralled into dealing with a certain, vendor that they don't want to deal with. So again, there was no protections in there about that.
Well, and Roger, you've talked about this too in the past, but and one of the things that we'll talk about a little bit later is a contract database, where you have different folks that are historically inclined, on any number of features. It could be on molding, it could be on roofing, it could be on stained glass, or we'd have that in place, and then it would be up to the citizen to contact each of these contractors, and then it's up to them.
Sure.
So now, with something like that, if you had a document with, you know, maybe 30 different contractors that are like-minded with this, would that be something that would be amenable to the association?
I think that people would like that idea, to be honest
Okay.
with you. Or, you know, to allow contractors to sign up to get on that list,
Right.
you know.
Because we don't want to feel like we're pointing fingers like you have to do this, but, you know, there are certain standards too, and I don't know if, Roger,
Well,
if
you know,
anybody.
the National Park Service Landmarks Commission or organization has standards which, and guidelines which are supposed to be followed for historic recognition. So that's the baseline for compliance, and I'm not sure why there would be a restriction on contractors as long as they can meet the guidelines for national listing. That's the issue. The homes, the specific homes in the district are, have national registration, and renovation work is supposed to comply with those standards, so.
Sure.
um,
Jason gave a really good example in his email of a home where a person has the means. You know, it looks like the house is gonna have to be raised now, the property's gonna have to be raised because it's gone so far, you know. I'm not talking to that detail. What I'm saying is that people were concerned, like, say they wanted to move, they put the stick in their yard, they're gonna move, and they got a neighbor that doesn't like them. Now, all of a sudden, because of a complaint, they could get corralled into, high-end repairs that they have no intention of doing. Not for the person who wants to do an upgrade, but for a person who gets forced to do an upgrade.
But I
I
don't
don't
see
know why.
that as being, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it wouldn't be an enforcement, it would be more of a allowed permitting tool, right? Like, I don't see our inspectors going out into the field and saying, oh, well, look at that house, they didn't do, you know, something the right way, right? I don't,
Well, state law prohibits, retroactive inspection.
right,
Right.
right.
So.
However, complaint-driven is allowed. Like,
Well,
they get phone calls.
yeah,
Well,
but
if
the
they're doing
complaints
something
have
without a
to-
permit,
Again, the
that would be-
complaints have to fall into line with state regulation.
Mhm.
And as far
Right.
as a home that is becoming a nuisance to neighboring properties, that's all governed under state law. So that's the way the complaints have to work.
I think I think one of the issues that came up, I remember at our last meeting, was, let's say you have a tile roof, and you don't have the means to replace that tile roof. You know, where it's gonna be
Right.
$40 or $50 or $60,000 to do that. Would there be other options, maybe with color or something, where someone could at least replace their roof, but not have to sell their house because they can't afford to do that type of a major repair? That was a concern that came up at our meeting, I know.
Well, the way it comes down with the national registration, national listing, if you have a historically listed house and the tile roof is part of that, and
Right.
you have to replace it, but you can't afford, and you have to go to another material,
Right,
it risks delisting of the house.
okay,
So
it
it's
still
no
could be done,
longer
but you
is a
lose that.
contributing property
Gotcha.
to the historic district. And the more that occurs, it puts,
devalues the whole neighborhood.
it devalues the whole neighborhood, it puts the historic district in jeopardy
Mhm.
for being.
Percentage of process, right?
Right,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so if you value being there because of the historic nature of the district, that value is gone. So that's one reason we're trying to do the loan program.
Mhm. Right.
Mhm.
We'd also like to find grant funds,
Yeah.
in some way, but that takes time to develop those
Oh,
things.
absolutely. And I don't want to take any more of your time. I really just came to
Well, no.
try to arrange a meeting with Jason today so that we could actually get
Well,
together.
we are gonna do that sometime in the next
Yeah.
several weeks.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you wanna come out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would invite our commission to come out as well. So when we get a date for that, we'll let everybody know.
That would be great, because I'd like to, we have a
Just to meet
Facebook
it.
site and a website. I'd like to get some neighbors
Sure.
together. that voice
So,
some concerns.
you meet, was that St. John's? Or what's the, St. James?
See, No,
St. John.
First Evangelical.
The church.
First Evangelical,
St. John's?
Yeah, right across from the
James John,
park.
one of
right
them.
across from St. James Park.
Yeah, there you go, you were close, St. John's across from St. James.
You know, I drew maps for 30 years, and
I
I
know.
still get confused with St. John's and St. James, it's like, come on, anyway.
But overall, it was that tone that a person
Mhm.
could be cited, and then this thing of being fined, you could be fined daily until, you know.
But you
it's
can-
someone- But it was like, where's the stop sign for the citizen who's trying to work on it, or
Right.
trying to make those changes?
And you can understand the frustration that we have too is, when- even in Astor, we've lost a number of homes over time.
Oh, sure.
And with this house at 1222 Monroe, South Monroe, I mean, I saw the pictures, they're horrible. So
Mhm, yeah.
it might be to the point where, you know, and I know Donna, you had a meeting and couldn't make that, but I saw the pictures and that, and, you know, part of us, you know, we're not gonna tie ourselves to every building that we see. However, you know, we still wanna have that thought process that, you know, we wanna move forward and preserve what we can.
Mhm.
And I remember Milwaukee, I think Milwaukee had an ordinance that, against owner neglect, if you will, you know, raising by neglect. And that, you know, we gotta look at that. You know, if there's some way that we can in the inspection department, get ahead of the game so that we address those issues before it becomes too late. Because then
Would have been a useful tool in this situation.
it would have been useful. So right now, we don't have that. So we're gonna have a couple of examples of, you know, if we would have had this in place, we could have avoided this.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of time for our inspection department. You know, they spend a lot of hours on this stuff where they could be doing some other things. So, you know, I think we need to, but we're listening too.
Sure,
We don't
yeah,
wanna push
absolutely.
this, we wanna make sure that the citizens are in tune with it as well. Otherwise, it's not gonna work.
Right. And I think overall the tone is that they are. I think that there was just a little bit of a tone in here that just not, maybe not quite enough
Yeah.
protections for a homeowner that does care. You know, that tone right there. I think that
Now,
was-
Susan, you're in real estate, I mean, with all these old historic homes and that, I mean, is there a tenor or a thought or flow of conversations over time with people moving into houses and feeling like they had to do certain things, or has it just been,
No, that's, I haven't heard anything of that,
you know, it's just, I mean, generally you would think if you live in a historic home, that's gonna be a benefit to you in the neighborhood and. So, all right.
Fair enough.
Well, thank you, Ron, I appreciate that. So that was on point 2. You know, Jason was gonna be working with me on that as well, but I will say that we do have a draft ordinance that's ready to go. And I guess, I'd almost ask Alder Nenning on this, what your thought would be as far as bringing things forward. We do wanna have a meeting with Astor, possibly with Fort Howard, some of the historic areas, you know, talk to the folks and say, okay, here's what we're going for, and bring it forward. And I'm just looking at timelines on that. I mean, we've been waiting quite a while. And I think it's time that we get to that point, so, you know, if you got some advice that way.
A lot of council members may not know all the detail of it, and you may want to have some kind of a workshop, you know, in the evening sometime when council members are available, or do something at the council meeting, you know. But I do think you have to have a little bit of education here before you're asking people to vote.
Hold on a second. You can have the recording. Dave? Mr. Boyce? Thanks. So, well, you know, looking at all of this, you know, anybody can chime in on this. There is so much with CLG, with historic ordinances, with all the different elements. There's a lot of different factors, a lot of different sheets. There's a comprehensive plan, you know, we've got our 2022 plan, and there's, you know, you can look, I've got files this thick on everything. So how do we, maybe Stephanie, maybe that's something you can help us with. We need to garner or take all of this information that we're trying to bring forward and make it more succinct. Not only for council, but also for neighborhood associations and that. We just need a packet, something.
I feel like you have your base documents in place, right? And you've asked Astor to make comments on those.
Right.
So I would think that you'd get together, they'd make the comments, and then as a committee, you'd have to decide, do we like that one? Do we not like that one? Which one will, you know, if we, it's best to get the parties together on the same page, because
Right.
Astor's a pretty big historic district.
Well, I guess, I mean, we're amenable to that, you know that.
No, absolutely.
And then once you guys get together with that document, that's the point that we either need to go through plan commission or
So
just
you're
refer through
thinking,
council.
let's have the
or-
neighborhood meetings with the neighborhood associations, gather that data, and then kind of,
Because at some point, as a committee, you'll need to make the decision on what do you want that ordinance to be and what do you want to go forward with.
Yeah. You know, I'm trying to think when the original ordinance, the current ordinance was adopted, I think it did go through the plan commission before it went to the council.
all right.
We can check on that.
Mhm.
You know, I think if that's the procedure was used then, it might make sense now.
Well,
You
that
know,
was.
it would, I know that there are differences, but you know, the truth of the matter is, if you get support from the plan commission, it adds weight to it when it gets to the council, so,
Mhm.
Right.
you know, whether you wanna do that or not, I guess it's up to you, but I think it does help to, you know, provide a momentum.
Mhm.
You know, and we have to include the entire council, there's 12 members, but I would say about half the members have older historic homes in their districts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, you know, I've already talked to Alder Galvin about it and
Mhm.
a few others, so it's important that they get on board as well, so.
Just as a clarification, the reason that Plan Commission was directly involved in establishing historic preservation ordinances is because it came when the state statute was established. It was done for all municipalities of certain size that had
Mhm.
historic properties. So, and it was essentially associated with the planning statutes
Yeah.
and state law, so.
Yeah.
All right, anything else on that? Otherwise, I think that's a good start, I appreciate all the input, thank you. Some of these are repeat, like I said, I'm looking for next number of agendas to be tighter, because Jason's not here, so the whole status report on the common council implementing the waiting period for raising of buildings. I know we've had a separate ordinance that we're looking at, but I'm just wondering if that's something that could be incorporated into our draft document somehow. I don't know. I've heard both things where it could be separate, or it could be, we've been kind of looking
When you
at
say
separate.
draft, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there was a draft ordinance that our law department drew up.
Right.
You know, for the raising of buildings, and we were trying to decide 10 days, 15 days, 30 days, this, that, and the other thing. Should we maintain that as a separate ordinance, or can we
Perhaps
incorporate
we
that?
need to review it here again, so.
So we'll do that, that'll be one of the conversation pieces that we have with Astor and that too. So we'll bring all of these questions up and let citizens help with that as well. Number 4, East Side Downtown Historic District Update. I have, Jason's not here, do you have anything,
I do.
Cheryl?
That is, okay, he submitted a National Register nomination package for the Downtown Historic District, so it's been submitted. It includes 38 downtown buildings on the east side, and the state has yet to review the nomination package, so he's thinking several months until something formal is in place yet.
Okay,
And just
that's right.
as a point of, you know, we started this process in 2011 by trying to designate various buildings in the downtown area as historically significant locally. So this is a great move forward, and I
Mhm.
think it's the right process
Mhm.
to go for a district with national listing, so.
Well, that can only bode well for other districts that we're gonna be looking at as well.
Well, it's appropriate for a city of the caliber of Green Bay. It's
And the
to be
age.
on the map that way.
Right.
So,
Well, cupcakes after that. All right, number 5, discussion concerning the Hotel Northland on 304 North Adams. I'll just state a couple things. It's been a long issue, long contentious issue, I will say that, and there was direction from the council at large to give 45 more days to KPH, the owners, and I'm not gonna go into a lot on this. It's been a very emotional issue, for me especially a bit, for Dennis as well. So it's a little difficult to bring up some things right now, but I will say that my concern is that, one of my concerns is that the building may be compromised. I worry about the historical integrity of the building. Can we maintain that? Will that go forward? And that's just one of the elements, one of my concerns. We're still waiting, and I don't know, Dennis, if you can say anything. I know that there's some other issues, but I don't know.
Well, I have issues, of course, with the owners, but I don't want to review those in this session. I am a little curious as to, especially given the fact that the city is well, right now, the city is the mortgage holder for all these, at this time anyway, while there's no senior debt. How come plans for that building and design for the public spaces hasn't been presented to this group?
Well, now that things have changed, that,
Especially
Probably
given,
technically, because the permits, you have to be in a historically designated area, right? For the plans to come here?
The
or-
building is
I'm trying to think of why they,
nationally listed,
because it's not,
so,
when
it's
I-
nationally listed?
Yeah.
yes,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's, I don't know if that includes the interior or not.
Oh, okay.
It'd have to be,
well, see, and it may be different here. When I worked with the Park Service in Miami, the Historical Preservation Commission would make recommendations to the Park Service and to the State Historic Office if they saw things that they felt weren't reflective of what the profile of that building should be. And as far as the interior, when it's going to be a national historic, when it's going to be a getting tax credits, there are interior spaces that are reflective of that.
Are there reports we could get? Because doesn't the state historic, aren't they doing inspections upon payments? That's my understanding. Is that there are state folks there because of the
They
tax
are.
credits doing
They
this?
are, but
Can
I
we
guess-
get copies of those reports that would,
I guess the point I'm making is that this commission should have an opportunity to weigh in on those. At least have commentary for the state.
and I
administration.
guess, and Dennis too, I know that there's been talk of, there might be some legal wranglings going on, and I guess there's a concern too of what we can do or what we can't do. I think that we need to know, first of all, who the owners are. Is it one owner? Is it two owners? That's a big point. That's a huge point, so.
Might be the city pretty soon.
So that's a point well taken, that the site plans, what else were you looking at? The site plans, where are they? Considering we are the mortgage holder. Now, we need to know, we need to be able to see
Well,
things.
let me back up a minute. I'm not suggesting that anything's been done wrong. I'm not suggesting that there's been any wrongdoing here. I am suggesting that something of that magnitude that has city funds invested in it, that this commission should at least be able to weigh in on those plans.
Okay, and I've seen some documents from your group, I've seen some documents from, pictures of what you're proposing, what they were proposing, so they're pictures. We don't have any documentation.
Mark,
Yes.
when this process began with the Northland, we were given a presentation, I think last year or the year before, I'm not sure.
Right.
And, we gave an approval at one of our meetings based on what we were shown.
Right.
Now, if different design is being prepared,
Well, that's the crux, and I counsel, I was very, very adamant about saying that I voted for this, and I feel like we're getting this, something different.
Well, that's,
So
and
that.
you are. I mean,
So-
what was presented to this council, what was presented to the senior lender in the city is not what they're doing.
So, and that.
I would think
that's an
we'd want to
issue.
put on our agenda in the next meeting or so, whether we should withdraw our initial support for the project.
Now, but folks, I would recuse myself from any of those decisions.
Right.
For obvious reasons.
Right.
But I'm not suggesting that the owners are doing anything wrong. I'm just saying that I think because of the magnitude of that project and the city investment, that this commission should at least be aware of what the design is.
Again, I concur. All right, is there anybody else that wants to speak on this at all? Otherwise,
Good, let's get off this one.
yeah, let's do it.
Sick of talking about it, Dennis?
Yeah, well, yeah, we all are.
Let's talk red law. How about
Red law. Okay. All right, next, consideration with possible action on historic preservation awards. Are we good? Yes,
Before we go any further, I just wanted to point out, and I talked to Roger a little bit before the meeting, that
yes,
because of circumstances, personally, I don't think I'm gonna be able to go forward with organizing all of this, so, and like I said, I did talk to Roger, and, or if anyone else is interested in taking over at this point, what needs to be done to get this, so the awards are out for
was
May.
it just on this issue or just generally?
No, just on this issue, on the HPC awards, so.
Okay,
I know Roger was nice enough to have this listing of the properties drawn up, and then he also contacted the plaque people
okay.
to get,
Well-
their quotes, so. But yeah, I'm just, because of other issues, need to step back from it.
All right. Well, with that being said, I'm looking at 2, 4, 6, 8, possible 9. And I thought we had kind of discussed keeping it a little bit smaller,
Yeah,
4 or 5.
maybe at the most.
And, okay.
Go ahead.
you go ahead.
Patty?
There was one left off from our initial conversations, that's 161 North Oakland.
Mhm.
So we gotta put that
And we
on
have
there?
Jason already has the pictures on file for that.
I think this was the original list, and we never really,
Tighten it up,
right.
right.
Mhm. So,
It's a song, tighten up.
that's what needs to be done.
All right. Well, does anybody have any suggestions on this? I mean, I think they're all, I've looked at a few of these places.
The only, one objection I have, is I've recommended for the past 3 years, I think that the watermark, for 2 years previously, that the watermark be put on the list. It's a large,
Right.
prominent structure in downtown, got a great renovation. And the only objection to putting it on our list has something to do with, financing of the project, so I don't think
It's
that's.
not moving forward, yeah.
It didn't stop the library.
Yeah. So,
All right.
anyway, so.
So the watermark, you want to consider that as well? Did you want that on there? Roger?
I would like to see it on.
Okay. Well, it's March, and we need to, we need to make a decision.
Okay.
I don't know if we can look at,
Can I just interject?
Yes.
on What the past process has been?
yeah. please do.
Normally, we develop a list of projects we consider worthy of receiving a historic preservation award. We discuss them over several meetings and come up with a short list of 3 to 5 projects. Occasionally, those might be individuals or organizations that also contribute to historic preservation in Green Bay. So the first step is getting down to a short list, and then, once we have that short list, each award recipient is assigned to one of the persons on the commission who contacts the person, obtains photographs and information about the project, and puts together a presentation and a brief description of why the project is receiving an award, and also presents that at the award ceremony. So,
We did
so
that 2
these
years
different
ago.
steps that we have to go through,
Right.
to get to the point where we have an award ceremony.
Well, with that being said, can we make a decision tonight to trim this up a little bit?
I think we should, I think our first
I think
step
we
should
need
go through and determine which
I mean, we've
category each
seen-
one is, so we have like
I
one
thought we
from each category.
had done that already, assigned.
It's not
Kind of
on,
loosely.
yeah,
Loosely?
Kinda
it's not
loosely.
on this sheet, but we had it
Oh,
all in
I-
front of us.
You know, I mean, we can look at these, and if anybody has something that really stands out, let's be heard right now. I feel fine with that.
Yeah, I thought we had like
I think
discussed.
the automobile
gasoline.
gallery, I'm very
Yeah,
high
yeah, I
on.
have that
I'm very
one.
high on that one.
On the gasoline bar.
The gasoline bar is also very nice.
No, we
No?
kind of thought about it,
Thumbs down.
Yeah, I thought we had.
not
All right, that's fine.
eliminating
This
that
is
one.
a democracy, right?
Always be nice.
It is. All right, what's next? Frankenthal Building.
I think the
Did-
Frankenthal building
was
is
that-
another one.
Uh,
That's a Wells Fargo now.
Wells Fargo, but I know they just put a sign up there. Was there all that much done
Yeah.
to the outside?
Wait, now that I'm thinking about it, still was commercial property, still commercial property, so I can read. No, they, yeah, but they really haven't done.
There was some signage in it, but I don't
Mhm.
remember any large scale.
And I could see it would be like adaptive reuse, it's not one of the situations where it's a church, you know, they have a
Right.
wedding chapel or a residence or
Or like the
something.
cannery is now, not a canning factory, it's a bar and a
Mhm.
brewery
Okay.
and a restaurant.
And Frankenthal was a men's clothing store, and now it's a bank.
So
No,
the
at least not
porch
really a
at
big
626. Porch?
Office
That's
space.
Cheryl's porch.
Yeah.
It's been referred to for quite a while now as Cheryl's.
The short porch, the short, yeah. We
Now,
haven't
there's
come
no
over.
address.
Porch from H.E. Doubles. Sticks. No, I'm just kidding.
Everybody's frowning.
It's a-
No, I mean, we,
I know we had talked about the automobile gallery,
yeah.
Mhm.
Frankenthal building,
I would say NeighborWorks, you know, they've done a lot of good things as well, but as far as, you know.
Well, it's
that-
not NeighborWorks. It's the building that NeighborWorks
Is in.
leases space from.
Right,
Right,
well,
'cause we
right,
did
I'm
give
not saying,
NeighborWorks.
right, okay, thank
We
you.
gave the
Yeah,
organization
we gave
one.
the organization, we gave NeighborWorks an award.
For the
Mhm.
building
3,
itself.
4 years ago or something like that. That building.
Pete's Garage,
I think we decided not to. We
okay.
had talked about that.
And we said no to gasoline bar.
Mm-hmm.
Tranquility Spa,
That's adaptive reuse again,
yeah,
same as the automobile gallery.
right.
And what are the
Well, we
categories?
haven't had many, we don't have many, it'd be nice to have a residential in there.
Mhm.
Well,
Okay.
I was thinking North Oakland, right?
No, residential as well as a,
And then
Do you have the
Cheryl's
property?
porch.
Well, do you have
Yeah.
the property where they painted the lenses on the corner of Cass and Jackson?
we got house
That's
repaint.
that was a huge
Okay,
white house that they
Right.
did.
and
like
it's,
five,
they
six-
really did a nice job on
Mhm.
that.
They did a beautiful job on it.
Well, I'd opt for something like that. You know,
They put
I think
a
I think a
residential.
residential would be important, so,
I
does
agree.
anybody have a problem with that one?
No.
I mean,
So-
they did porch, they redid the porch.
Okay.
You know, replaced it, not replaced it, but repaired it.
Is it the 704 South Jackson?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's probably.
That sounds about right for this number.
and the 161 North Oakland, that's, I'm trying to think, is that across the street?
No, there's a house in between that one and mine. That's the Queen Anne on the corner.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
meticulously upkept with the gardens in the front.
Right, well, that house, I mean, I don't think they've ever gotten a word
No.
from us. Just because, I mean, and they probably haven't done a lot.
Well,
Does-
he had all the trim painted multicolors last year, you know, up in each of the gables. It was all repainted.
Well, I would,
But it's just constant upkeep on.
and plus it draws attention to the district as well.
Mhm.
I would have no problem with that either. I could see 2 residential and 2 commercial properties. So, does anybody against that? 161 North Oakland? So that, and then the house repaint on South Jackson, those 2 residential, and then the automobile gallery. And then I think it would be nice to have one more at least.
So on the watermark, I know you said that had been discussed before, prior.
It has
And
been.
what was the,
Well,
how
Roger,
I'm not sure
it came down on?
why.
do you think part of it is because it's, you know, it's still in a process of getting people in, but, you know, the building itself,
Isn't it finished? The building itself finished?
Pretty much.
Not all of it, I don't believe.
I haven't been
Doors that are
indoors,
unfinished.
inside for a while, but the creamery's in there, but there's
Mhm.
still a number of vacant spots there.
Right.
There are tenant spaces that still need to be built out, developed, but I think the building shell is completed, so.
Well, if that's the case, I would, with Roger, what you said, I would opt to go with that as well. It's with Watermark. Are we good with that, or?
We're adaptive?
Yes, for adaptive. So we got 2 commercial and 2 residential. That could be the short list.
Perfect.
Okay?
So,
Do we have a motion to that effect, unless somebody else wants to add anything else?
so which is the, which are the 2 commercial, or the residential?
The residential would be 704 South Jackson
Oh,
and 161 North Oakland. So those 2, and then the commercial would be the Automobile Gallery, 400 South Adams, and then the Watermark building, which I'm not sure of the address. Somebody's got it, right?
And then would automobile gallery be adaptive reuse also?
Yeah,
I would
those two
say,
would be-
yeah, they're both
would be
adaptive. So if unless anybody else has anything else, I would have a motion, somebody make a motion to accept those, at least for the short list.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So Roger, what's next then? I mean, Janine said she's gonna be backing down on this. If we can assign one of these to each one of, not backing down, I'm sorry. Get that off the recorder.
Sure can.
Sure.
the next step is
No, we
that
don't, sorry.
4 commission members need to step forward and
I would,
adopt one of these to develop the award nomination.
well, if that's the case, do we, I'd say right now, if somebody wants to step forward.
I'll do 704 South Jackson.
Okay, so that's Susan,
I'll do
Right.
North Oakland.
North Oakland, okay, Patty.
I've got the automobile.
The automobile, okay, David. And Watermark, I could.
You want to do that?
Anybody else? Do you want to split it?
I want to make sure I'm.
Yeah.
Sure, we could work on it. Or who are you talking to? Oh,
Dennis was
okay.
saying something else. I would share that with someone. I mean, part of it's time for me. Roger, would that work?
Should we pick a date before last few years? We had it in May.
Yes, May, usually the
Historic
council.
preservation month. Yeah, the council. I like
Does
doing it
anybody
at the
have
council.
a meeting schedule of council? It's every other week, so I don't have that.
So it would be the 4th.
So, I mean, right now,
Or
we have,
is
we have
that-
council next week.
The 21st, and then I think it's moved, isn't it, to the Monday? It's an election in April. So I think we
Right.
moved that council meeting.
Well, we're looking at May,
Looking at May? Oh.
so it's every 2 weeks, so pick a date in May. I'm thinking the middle of the month.
Yeah, we could even firm up the date of the
The
next
16th?
meeting.
Yeah,
Just
well-
get
The
going
3rd?
and letting
Let's-
recipients know and
yeah.
tell
The
them
third
we'll
week is
finalize
May
it.
16th.
So say tentatively May 16th, council. So when I say tentative, we can finalize it. All right, good, thank you. Roger, you're good with that, you and me? Thanks. No, I just saw it hit All right, next, discussion regarding the historic preservation contractor database. There's a group I belong to as well called the Brown County Trust for Historic Preservation, and we started working on that database. And I don't know, I'll even throw it out to the city, to inspection and that, if you folks think that would be a good idea to have something like that in place, so that we can avoid some of these issues and problems that we've been having. I don't know.
It would be great if
I already
we had-
have a tentative sheet that I could share with our commission of different folks, but it's not comprehensive, it's not totally there yet. And I guess one of the challenges we have is like, okay, one person's idea of something historically, significant or relevant is different than somebody else's, so how,
You'd almost have to define your contractor, because, for example, the contractor who did my front porch,
yeah,
I don't know if he'd be considered a historical contractor, but he knows how to do the elements that are on the porch.
yeah.
Compared to someone who actually specializes in that, knows where to find all the parts, for example, right?
Right, but considering the years, I would talk to DePere and Alloway, because they do have
Mhm.
CLG status, and maybe talk to some of their folks and find out who some of those contractors are. But that's something I'll bring to our next meeting.
Maybe we could talk about what the criteria is that we should have for
Okay, make it,
someone being on this.
all right,
I
is
think
that,
you have to have criteria. Now, we talked about this years ago, and my big concern, I think it's nice to have a list of contractors so people will know what they could call. But my big concern was, we're part of the city government, so in essence, you're saying the city is recommending like this painter or this window person or this roofer
Yeah.
or whoever, and I didn't know if that would be a problem, because the city's then endorsing,
well, you could say,
basically.
yeah, I see where you're coming from,
We're
Susan.
not a private entity.
But I think part of it is that if you put out 6 different painting companies that have done this type of work, it's up to the citizen then to decide.
But I think
My
if you
concern was-
set up criteria,
Yeah, a roofer might say, well, how come ABC Roofing or whoever is on there and I'm not on that list?
well, then you said,
Well, if we have
that's why you have the
criteria, how-
criteria?
Yeah, but
If
how are
they
you gonna
meet the
establish a
criteria.
If
criteria
they
like
meet the
a
criteria.
roofer?
It
We have other
it has
cities
to
that do
fall
that in
into
the area.
Hold up.
qualification. It has to fall
I'm sorry.
into qualification-based selection criteria. The same way architects and engineers and, the like are qualified to do public work. They have to show experience, documented experience, and they have to be in good standing financially and professionally. So, those aspects, they have to fulfill those aspects
be
and
careful with
demonstrate
that,
that.
Yeah,
So
that's-
once
I
we-
just feel as a
I think you
public
have to be
entity.
careful with that, because I've done a lot of historic projects, and it's important that for an historic project, that the contractor understands the complexities of historic rehabilitation, but the workers themselves, the subcontractors, it could be Joe Blow the painter, and as long as the contractor is dictating the specs, any painter could qualify. So you've got to be careful with that. I think that's a two-sided sword.
Well, in a perfect world, how would you, I think we're trying to be proactive in a sense.
I'd almost have it be an open invitation to subcontractors and contractors, and they should add a 2-line or 3-line descriptive of what experience they've had in that
area.
so that we're not dictating anything, and we're not propping them up in any way.
Yeah, there'll be mega disclosure, I would think, too.
Yeah,
Well-
but whenever I've done an historic rehabilitation, it's the contractor that you hold responsible. You don't really
Right.
have to deal with the individual subcontractors.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I don't know if that's something that city staff could maybe flesh out a little bit.
We have a list of contractors for our rehab loan program that you need to be, lead certified for part of our program requirements. And if you're, and there might be 7 or 8 contractors on there, if a general were to come forward and say, hey, I'm lead certified, it'd be great. You want to be on the list? And, you know what I mean? We would just keep adding to the list as long as they meet that criteria. They haven't been
So-
disbarred from HUD, they
But you
haven't.
probably have, a ton of subcontractors who would love to be
right.
involved, that really don't have that as a profile.
Right, it's the general's responsibility to
Right.
make sure that.
So then would you set up, if you'd set up something like this, you would do the general contractors and then let.
I'm saying that you could, this is just a hypothetical.
Yeah.
It could be an open submission for anyone that wants to be on the list, but they have to give, some descriptive as to what experience they have in that regard. It's I'm not even sure that the city should be involved in that, but
Yeah.
that's,
And I think you bring up a good point, you have a general contractor, and what about the qualifications of the subs?
because you would hold the contractor responsible,
Right,
hypothetically.
okay, so.
I guess what I'm saying is that you don't
want
wanna cut off, you don't wanna cut off people that are capable of doing the work. And just because they haven't done a project like that before, their skill set is no less than the person that's being awarded it.
Cheryl?
So, but the Brown County Trust was looking to do this, not the
Yes,
city?
they are,
I
so,
can, let me tell you, as a person who owns a really old house, there's a very limited scope of contractors out there who can do some of that work, and they're very difficult to find.
yes,
So if the trust would have had, you know, I have to repair a stained glass window, for example, in my front window, and it's a whole project of replacing that window and that, who do I call, the glass house maybe?
well,
You know what I mean? Like, it'd be nice if they, at least the trust, had that list of who can do window repairs
right.
instead of just
And they're not
replacements.
beholden to a city government or a
Right.
county
It's just
government.
like a private
Right, to do-
recommend, but you can go to these people, they can recommend.
And I just, well, I guess what I would do then, is I could just bring that to the commission and just show what we have. And there was like 30 different criteria, you know, from
Mhm.
stained glass to tuck pointing to
Right.
painting to
Right.
any number of things, and
Cedar siding, I mean.
cedar side. And I guess what it was is that people, you know, they don't just get picked. They would have to write to us and then show examples of their work, and then, you know, our commission would decide, okay, this is fine. I mean, something like that. So maybe we should just back away. Those are good points. So,
It's
okay.
always trying to avoid liability.
The main issue behind this really should be making it easier for citizens who own historic properties to be able to maintain them as historic properties.
Yeah, who do we go to? So I think that's the reason I brought that up. But you're right, there are some
Yeah,
potential liability issues.
I think it's a great idea, but I just didn't know as a public entity.
But
Okay.
like- But like I said, the next step could be, we'll contact
From County Trust.
the trust, you know.
All right.
They have a list,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'll just have ECT continue. All right. So do we need a motion to that effect?
No,
Okay, it's just discussion, all right. Number 8, review 2017 of February building activity reports.
I think it's ready
From the
to
beginning.
all of that stuff.
Oh, pictures, huh?
Yeah. Which is really nice.
Well, is the 1222 listed on here?
I
Yeah,
think that's the next issue.
because I know we're gonna talk about that. No, wait,
That's number 9.
okay, all
We're
right.
on number 8.
All right, anything jump out at you? David?
We're gonna discuss this.
There's nothing. That's number 9.
Oh, the pricing and everything?
For the awards?
That was just for information.
Just information, yeah. All right, okay, if there's nothing else, if we don't see anything, just, I'd like a motion to accept.
Move to receive and place on file the detailed summary of projects.
Okay, by Roger, second by Dennis.
228.
Okay, thank you, all in favor? Aye, all opposed? All right, number 9, review city raised repair orders and demolitions. So, we have a few, right? I noticed that. Okay, we're looking at a number here. So the 1222 South Monroe, I think that's the one that really jumps out. And granted, it's in Astor, and I will say this about, you know, city, and I worked for the city for 25 years, but my experience with the city has been generally, you try to work with the citizens, you try to, when it gets to the point that, hey, we've done everything we could, and it seems like we've kind of come to that point. with this place. I don't know if there's anything you can add to it,
That's
but it,
pretty much where we are with that. We've been working on it for 3 years. And we have, on the exterior, they've not made one repair. Interior, it took from July of 2014 to actually siting them. We tried to work, little by little, go room by room. It took siting them, sending them to court, entering into a stipulation. They got pretty close, December 2015, to where we could lift the condemnation. But I would think that if we went back there now, it's probably still the same. The homeowner herself, her son's living upstairs, has to this day never gone upstairs and will not go up there. But we are pretty much back to square one. We've tried to get her to turn in a home loan application. She turned it in twice, both times. They've not had all the information. We have cited her for the repairs themselves. She set up a meeting with the city attorney, did not show for it. We posted the razor repair, the 30-day deadline went by. We met with her again, even though normally we don't do that. But we tried again, we said, look, this is where we're at. The 30-day deadline to stop us has passed, but we're gonna try again. We gave her 2 things to do, and we're right back where we were.
has anybody else been in that house? Bill, you've been in there, right?
No, I drive by there every morning.
Yeah, yeah, so you kind of,
Yeah.
your head just turns to the left
If
automatically?
you look, you can see the items piling up in the upper window.
Right.
Again, so, yeah.
Cheryl, have you been in that house? Anybody else? I had it, well, I didn't get in there, but I just saw the pictures and it's pretty bad.
The staircase looks like it was beautiful.
Yes,
At one point.
At one point, it probably was very beautiful.
If it was raised, is there a way to salvage anything? Or would it be,
What we usually do in a situation like that is, if we're proceeding with the raise, usually we'll, after it gets cleaned out and stuff, we'll send, we have a couple people, I think, is it, this gentleman's name, I've forgotten.
Have juries
Have
one, I
juries.
think he worked, we don't work with the contractors, they have to work directly with the demolition contractors. But usually the demo guys want the metal out of the buildings, they don't care about the other stuff, so.
We'll go ahead and save
It
stuff.
They've
just
been
for the
able to
record,
salvage.
just state your names, just for the record of the inspections.
Oh, Donna Rosenthal, Housing and Zoning Inspector.
Phil Pappy, Neighborhood Development Manager.
Okay, thanks. All right, somebody else, well, we have some others here too. Is there anything else that stands out?
So,
No.
In the packet that we received, there seem to be just the 2 houses that have characteristics which would make them valuable in their neighborhoods if they were maintained
So you're looking at
effectively. Well, this would be the
North Henry?
1222 South Monroe Building and the
560 North Henry had some architectural merit.
yes, 560 North Henry.
Okay,
It does.
all right.
However,
So-
Jason indicated that these are not listed in the Wisconsin inventory
Right.
of historical buildings. And what, he didn't say so, but we know we don't have a legal recourse to acquire the property for stabilization and repurposing. So he did this, thus he recommended no action on anything.
So, okay, well, you were saying, Bill?
We can't call, and, at this point, from an inspection standpoint,
Yeah.
we can't do that. We can't make a phone call and say, hey, well,
Right.
we just,
Well,
they would, especially with how far we've come in the case and stuff. Like, if they were to sell it to somebody else,
Well, there has to be,
could it be saved? You'd have to take a look on what it's like on the inside, how much of the interior, how much of the roof damage. We'd take a look at the foundation. If you do a minimum repair on the foundation, it's $6,200. If you do what should be done, it's about a $20,000 repair for the foundation.
and if it gets to the point of a razor repair, usually it's So that's late in the process. They should have come forward earlier for neighborhood enhancement funds or what have you.
Yeah, and we've tried that with this particular individual.
Do you know if she's willing to sell the property, or
We
has she
were-
said anything like, oh, if I could sell this?
She has
I would-
not said, that she would be she has not mentioned selling it at all, and we would advise not to.
Well, right,
So that,
because
right, we
it
can't
could be
say.
conflict,
Right, so, but she has not one time mentioned selling it.
I was just curious if it was, I don't feel like she's a person who would want to sell from what I've
No,
heard from the.
absolutely not.
Even
Unfortunately,
the raise process itself, I'm sure will be difficult with, at this.
So,
Well-
the step you're at right now is you're getting ready to go to court to initiate raise?
It's already done.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
we're at the point now where we would start the bidding process and begin
Okay.
the raise process. 'Cause yeah, that's already expired.
So,
So,
Uh,
go ahead.
I move we receive the report and place on file with the comment that we regret that 1222 South Monroe and 516 North Henry are in this state because they are buildings that could contribute to the historic nature of their neighborhoods.
Okay, do we have a second? Second by Dennis. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye, all opposed? Thank you for your diligence on this. Further announcement in the news, nothing I have. Next meeting, April 10th, 2017, and we'll decide this time. I'm thinking for now 4:15, but,
Yeah, you can keep this thing until
Yeah.
we need a reason to change it, basically.
all right. Well, welcome aboard, Stephanie. Thank you for being a part of us.
Yes, Stephanie, welcome aboard.
Yeah, yeah. All right, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you much.